Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Uzumasa Limelight, a Japanese drama from 2014. Now the film begins with the following information. Uzumasa, the western suburb of Kyoto, is known as the Hollywood of the East. It is the birthplace of many masterpieces of Japanese film. Uzumasa was once home to over 1,000 Kirare Yaku, extras who specialize in being killed on screen. However, since the decline in samurai cinema, their numbers have dwindled to a mere handful. So our main character in this film is a 70-year-old gentleman by the name of Kamiyama, a longtime extra who has died on screen for decades. You can tell he loves his job, he's good at it, and he's proud of his profession. But his workload has been steadily declining over the years, and one of his long-running samurai drama shows is canceled by a young executive. Now, our protagonist is a bit spooked by this event and has to deal with it emotionally. And to make matters worse, the recent casting trends make it almost impossible for this guy to get any work anymore. But then he meets a young girl named Satsuki, who becomes a fan and wants to learn from him. So one of the biggest positives of Uzumasa Limelight is that it has a lot of heart to it. Alright, it's very easy for the viewer to feel for the protagonist in this film. You know, this guy worked hard his whole life on something that is currently in a state of decline. And I have to admit, I did get a bit teary-eyed in spots during this film, so it definitely works very well on an emotional level. And one of the reasons for that is this lead actor, Seizo Fukumoto, who actually served as an extra in samurai films for decades in real life, getting killed numerous times himself on screen. So I found it interesting that the filmmakers made a casting choice like this because they used a relatively unknown actor whose history mirrors that of the main character of the film. So I thought that was kind of neat, and you could definitely tell maybe he took some of his own personal experiences and infused it into his performance. And it works, because this dude's performance is actually very good. You know, even though he has a huge list of acting credits, the fact that he's been an extra a lot of times, I didn't recognize him before. So he's got some acting chops, man. He's really good in this. And this is his film. Like, he really kind of carries it. Even when he's not talking. You know, he does a good job of expressing emotion without even talking at times. You know, through his mannerisms and facial expressions. The lead actress, Chihiro Yamamoto, is good. She's good. She plays off of Fukumoto well, and their friendly relationship is quite endearing. You know, it's good stuff. In regard to themes, Uzumasa Limelight touches on certain trends in contemporary filmmaking, you know, like the tendency of throwing idols and pop stars into films and television series, which is not necessarily a new thing, and not necessarily a bad thing in every case. But there have been times where I've seen an underwhelming performance by a young Japanese actress, only to then find out that she's a member of AKB48 or something. You know what I mean? And there's been times in, you know, a Korean film where the actor seemed a bit too, you know, young and clean for the role, only to then find out that he's a member of some K-pop group who got thrown in. So it can be a problem in real-life film industries at times, and Uzumasa Limelight kind of addresses that. There's also a certain nostalgia that's invoked in this film, you know, not only for fans of classic samurai flicks, but anyone who has been closely associated to a certain trend that died off over the course of time. You know, sometimes change is kind of inescapable, whether we want it or not. And most people have experienced this kind of thing in one way or another, whether it's related to film or not. So I think this movie will connect with many viewers on an emotional level because of that. It's very, practical. It's a very practical film, I think. There's also a lot of practicing and sparring by the characters, mostly using wooden swords. You know, these characters need to stay sharp so they look good on screen in their roles. And there are some choreographed fights that the characters need to execute while making their films. So it was really kind of fun watching sword fights that are not real within the universe of the film itself, but still had a dramatic basis for the characters, because if they screw up their fight scene, their career could be negatively impacted by it. So it's definitely a different way to watch a sword fighting scene in a movie, and I liked it. You know, it offers something a little different and creative. Now, in terms of flaws, there's not really a whole lot that comes to mind in this case. The film is kind of simplistic, I would say, on a certain basis, and its themes are kind of readily apparent, but its heart is definitely in the right place, and it really nails its lead protagonist. So overall, I definitely recommend Uzumasa Limelight for those of you who want just a good, solid drama. In regard to availability, this is available on Amazon streaming with subtitles, and it's free if you have Amazon Prime. So there you go there. So if you've been following my channel at all for some time now, you'll know that I've reviewed a bunch of really good contemporary Japanese dramas over the past year and a half. You know what I mean? Like I reviewed Rage, The Long Excuse, Scoop, Her Love Boils Bathwater, Traces of Sin, Flying Colors, The Furthest End Awaits, etc. So there's a bunch of those reviews on my Japanese movie review playlist. So if you want some recommendations, go to that playlist, because Japan really does release a lot of really good dramas nowadays. And as always, I'll see you next time.